Let's make black cake. Ah! Okay, this is one of my favorite cakes because it is so ingrained in my culture. So before I get wound on, we're gonna make a Jamaican style black cake. Now, this is a cake that we make around the Christmas holidays, but we also make it to celebrate any occasion, AKA weddings. And I had a black cake at my wedding when I got married forever ago. All right, so let's get started. The first thing you're gonna do is you can't just wake up one morning and be like, oh my gosh, I wanna make black cake today. No, you've got to prep some ingredients, and I've done that. What I've got here is some dried fruit that has been soaking in a mixture of red wine and rum. And I'm gonna show you the wine that we use, red label wine. My mom brought me some. And I usually just use the red label wine, but this time I did add a little bit of rum as well to that mixture. And as always, you can find the full details and recipe instructions over on the blog. And when you're ready to bake your cake, it's gonna smell like wine and liquor. Strong. All right, so before I get there, I have preheated my oven, and I'm gonna bake this cake on 250 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a lower temp that you usually bake cakes. But after testing my recipe for many, many times, I like to bake my cake at a lower temp so that it comes to a nice, smooth consistency. All right. So the first thing I'm gonna do with this wine mixture that has been soaked is further prep it by blending out the fruits. Now, some people like to leave the fruits whole. When my grandmother used to make it, she used to leave her fruits whole, but I don't. I like to blend it out because I want my cake to be nice and smooth. So I'm gonna pour all that in a high-powered blender because it needs to be able to handle this fruit in the liquid. So I'm just gonna blend it out till it's nice and smooth. Come on, blender tap. Gonna bake a cake. Woo! All right. So now you can see our mixture is nice and blended and smooth, and I'm gonna set that to the side. Now we're gonna go ahead and move on to prepping our dry ingredients. Here into a regular bowl, I'm adding some all-purpose flour, some breadcrumbs. So I get a lot of questions about why the breadcrumbs in this cake. And the reason why is because you're adding a ton of liquid to this cake. So that breadcrumb is supposed to soak it up. You'll also find people that might use some saltines or there's nice water crackers, but do it, trust it, add flour and breadcrumbs. And so I'm gonna add a whole tablespoon of baking powder, my ground cinnamon, I'm gonna make about a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Add our dry spices to this as well. And we're gonna add in ground nutmeg, about 3/4 of a teaspoon. And a 1/4 teaspoon of my favorite allspice. And we're also gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Salt and baking basically just rounds out the flavor. We're gonna mix this until it's nice and combined. Now, before I move any further in this recipe, I totally missed a step, my bad. But what you always wanna do before you kind of move on is you wanna make sure, in addition to preheating your oven, you wanna prep your baking dish because you don't wanna forget to grease the sides and all that jazz. So, what we're gonna bake this cake in is a 10-inch baking pan. The sides of this are very tall as well. Essentially, this is the pan that I've tested this recipe in and it works the best. The best way to do this is to use a parchment liner, and that's big enough to line the bottom of your pan. And I'm gonna go ahead and grease the sides of this with that butter paper. Give me that butter paper. Because what we don't want is we don't want the cake to stick to the sides. And since we already have these ingredients out, might as well use them. But I do like to line the bottom with parchment paper because sometimes that thing likes to stick. You can also add butter to the bottom of it before you add the parchment paper, but it's just an extra layer to ensure that the cake doesn't stick. All right, so we are almost ready to get to our batter going into that pot. But first, we've got to go ahead and do some traditional baking stuff, which is creaming our butter and sugar together. Alrighty, so I have got here my KitchenAid. I'm gonna use this mixer. If you don't have a KitchenAid, you can use any mixture or your hand. But what we're gonna do is we're going to cream our butter and sugar first. Softened butter, by the way. And I'm using dark brown sugar for this recipe. We're gonna cream this until these butter is nice and fluffy. It's gonna take about 3 minutes. That's my guesstimation on medium speed. Let's see what this is looking like. Nice and fluffed. It's nice and fluffed and pretty. All right. So anytime you're using a stand mixer too, you kind of want to make sure you go in with the spoon or whatever, making sure that it got all the sides and stuff. All right, and so now I'm going to add my eggs to this, and I'm going to add 5 whole large eggs, but I'm going to add them in one at a time. So I'm going to get that mixer going. As you notice, I'm cracking my eggs in a separate container just so that I don't get any cracks, because once in the actual batter. That's like the worst thing you can do is get like eggshell in your batter. It's embarrassing and kind of sad. Anyways, gonna add this and mix it in one at a time. For one last one. Look at that. I got eggs in this. See, I knew I was gonna mess up, but it's okay because good thing that's not gonna get in my batter, because I'm just gonna scoopy these out. I'm gonna turn this off so I can already tell that my batter is being disrespectful and not really releasing from the sides here. So I'm like, all right, so I'm gonna add a few more wet ingredients to this. I've got here, I have a lime, and I've rinsed this lime, and what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna add zest the lime. I'm cool with zesting it right over the thing, but I wanna get that lime zest to get a little bit of that lime flavor. Be careful, you don't want to get the white part of the lime, but I just like to get the green part. Zest has a lot of flavor, more than even juice, although I am going to add just a little bit of this juice, but the most important thing is I want to get a good amount of zest in there. Oh, and there is nothing like a really good lime zesters. I know that they have all different kinds on the market. Microplane, I swear, is at least right now, is the best lime zester that I've been able to find. All right, that's enough of that. All right, and I'm going to squeeze, I need a tablespoon of lime juice, and so I'm just gonna squeeze it in my little thing just to kind of make sure that I'm getting not too much lime juice. But all we need is a tablespoon. Should be about half a lime, and I was correcto. So I'm gonna add that to that. And I'm gonna add some vanilla extract as well as almond extract. And I bet you're wondering and saying, oh my gosh, that's a lot of ingredients. It is. It's a really special cake. It should take a lot of ingredients. And almond extract. Just a teaspoon of each. Oh, that's strong. Almond extract is strong. All right, gonna mix that some more. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add that flour mixture to this slowly to make a cake batter. Add about half of it, get that mixed in. Oops. We're almost there, man. Almost there. This smells good. It kind of reminds me of like gingerbread at this time, right? But we haven't added our fruit blend mixture. Now we add that, all of it, the whole shebang. It's a lot. Just throw it in there. Oh, come on, everything. And this is, my friends, what makes the most delicious fruit cake that's made with wine and sometimes rum. Yes, ma'am. Oh my gosh. Okay, come on. I want all of it. Get it all in there. Oh. I can already tell this is not getting as deep down as I want. So this is, you've done your job, stand mixer, but now I'm going to switch to doing this by hand to make sure that I'm getting all of the batter off the sides. It did what it came to do. It came to mix initially, and then I'm gonna finish this up with my arm muscle because I'm strong. Anyways, now this of course is not black, it's a nice brown, but in order to get that black cake color, we've got to add color. And so I'm gonna add basically browning sauce. You can find this in any Caribbean market, international store, and I'm doing a whole 2 tablespoons. And I do browning and burnt sugar. If you taste the ingredients by themselves, they do taste a little bit different. It's burnt sugar. Essentially the same ingredients as browning, but just a little bit different. Oh gosh, I thought it was open. And it's black. It's even a little bit darker than the browning. Up a bump. And I add 2 tablespoons of that as well. All right, and now I'm going to mix this in. Now we're getting somewhere. It's not as brown, it's getting a little bit darker. And the cool thing about this, you'll notice that this isn't even black after I finish with this, but after it bakes, it turns black. But you saw that it got darker once we added that browning and burnt sugar. Got that prepared cake pan that I did earlier, and I'm going to pour the mixture in there. Now, one question I get a lot of is, can you make this into muffins? I've never done that. Or if you could reduce the amount of cakes. You can bake these in smaller sizes, I'm sure. You'll just have to reduce the cook time and, you know, kind of check it. And then to scale this recipe, honestly, I don't know. I've only made it this way, so I'm not gonna tell you something that I don't know about. I make 1 cake at a time, and I make it with love, and then I eat it with my family and my friends. All right, so I'm just gonna smooth the top of this so it doesn't look a hot mess when it bakes. Now, because we're baking it at such a low temp, it's gonna take like 2.5 hours before it's finished. So definitely do this on a day that you have time. Also note that you're not gonna be able to enjoy this today because it has to cool overnight. Either way. And that's it to prep your cake. We're gonna go ahead and put this in our preheated oven and bake it for about 2 to 2.5 hours until a knife entered in the middle comes out clean. Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes and I waited that long because, as you can see, the sides of the cake have separated from this baking tin, which is gonna make it easier to plop out. I'm gonna do this still just to make sure there's no stickies. No stickies. And I like to just put a plate over the top and turn it over. Oh, this is still a little hot. I'm gonna use this so I don't hurt myself. My bad. Oh, I felt that. This is that parchment paper. Okay, and if I want to turn it back over, I'm gonna get another plate and flip it. I'll be back. Flippity flip, so it doesn't look so weird. Boom, I did it, yay. All right, and I'm not done yet. So this is your basic Jamaican black cake. Now what you do want to do is add more wine, not rum, but you want to add more wine to it before it finishes cooling. And we're going to let it cool overnight before we cut into this baby. So I'm going to get a baster brush thing and just kind of let it soak up additional wine so we can make it extra boozy. You'll thank me later. I might just dump it on here because I have no patience. Now you'll notice that the wine is just sitting on top of here, but tomorrow when I come back, it's gonna be all soaked up in that cake, which is also gonna make it more potent. All right guys, so I'm gonna finish basting this cake and I'll come back tomorrow and show you the finished product. Good morning. It is the next day. Our cake has been chilling overnight. And as you can see, all that wine that I kind of just poured on there has soaked into the cake. So it's time to taste test. Ooh. This is rich and dense. I'm gonna take myself a nice slice here. Let's see. Come on, cake. I cannot wait to dig into this cake. Time for the taste test. That is so good. The flavor, y'all. Just like grandma's. I don't even know why I used a fork, because usually you just pick it up with your hand and eat it. All right, guys. I'm over here drinking coffee and rum cake in the morning. All right, until the next time, bye. This is really good. I'm gonna take a bite.